Martin Scorsese's The Irishman is based on the best-selling crime novel I Heard You Paint Houses, which was written by attorney Charles Brandt after hitman Frank Sheeran's deathbed retelling of his life. Sheeran was heavily involved in the mob, carrying out murders unquestionably for his employers such as Russell Bufalino and Angelo Bruno. Sheeran also worked both legitimately and illegitimately for Teamsters president Jimmy Hoffa, and he claims he was told to kill Hoffa by the mob after the latter's relationship with the mafia deteriorated. Sheeran lived an incredible life. The book covers in detail a great many things that occurred in his youth, his early adult years as a truck driver, his days as a Teamsters official, his role as a mobster, his time in prison, and his eventual old age. There is far too much in the book to cover in a single movie, so undoubtedly many things will be left out. It has led to those who are anticipating the film, which will star Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, Joe Pesci and Harvey Keitel all in the same film for the first and only time, whether Sheeran's time during World War II will make it into the film. Sheeran enlisted into the US Army at the age of 21, and he served an incredible 411 days of combat duty during the Second World War. He served in several noteworthy campaigns, including the invasion of Sicily, the Battle of the Bulge, and the invasion of Germany. It is during World War II that Sheeran became accustomed to killing and indifferent to the taking of human life. He would later compare his mafia bosses to his army officers, mentioning that when they would tell him to perform a war crime like murdering a prisoner of war, it was a case of doing what you had to do. Sheeran's time during World War II is very interesting and is expanded on heavily in the book. There's so much material to work with that you could honestly have a movie solely focusing on Sheeran's time in the war. With The Irishman having to cover so much ground, what with Sheeran's extended relationship with the mob, his role as a Teamsters official, his personal family life, etc., it wouldn't be crazy to suggest that The Irishman will not showcase scenes from Sheeran's war experiences for pacing and runtime purposes, despite it playing a huge role in shaping the man into who he would go on to become. It is, after all, primarily a mob movie, and Scorsese hasn't shied away in the past from removing or switching up parts of a person's life in order to fit the kind of film he is making. So will the movie contain World War II flashbacks? Well, I can answer that question by saying yes, there will be an extended flashback during Sheeran's time in the war. How do I know this? Because recently I acquired Steven Zelane's script to the film. Of course, this is subject to change, as it may well be that it could get cut out of the final film, but is unlikely seeing as though the war was so important in shaping Sheeran and is covered in quite some detail in the screenplay. The flashback in question harks back to Sheeran's time in Anzio, Italy, in 1943, and him and the American soldiers being pinned down by German mortars. They dig holes for themselves in the sand to take refuge in, and many are gruesomely cut apart by the German shelling. Over the next couple of weeks, Sheeran's time underground is covered, with new recruits arriving and dying day by day. Frank learns not to get attached to the new guys, seeing as though they might be dead within a few hours. After 122 days, reinforcements arrive from behind the Germans, and eventually the Allies' foes surrender. After which, Sheeran takes revenge on the Germans by killing prisoners of war, even people begging for mercy. He makes them dig their own graves before nonchalantly shooting them, contemplating on why they even bothered to dig the holes for him in the first place. This shows us that, even if it's for a mere few minutes, World War II is included in Steven Zelane's script. It'll be interesting to see how this was filmed, if it is included in the final cut, how long the scene will be, and whether they will use a digitally de-aged Robert De Niro or use a younger actor. Of course, this was 11 years ago, so it could well be a preliminary script draft that has since been nullified by a newer version. But it would be pretty cool if a first act flashback of World War II was included in the film. I've always had a secret desire for Scorsese to make a war movie ever since the brilliant flashback scenes in Shutter Island. And the war had such an effect on Sheeran, it would be missing a huge chunk of his life for it not to be included in The Irishman, which is due for release in late 2019. Thanks for watching.